Hello, good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. We have a busy evening this evening with our guests. Our guest on the show tonight is Anthony Hughes, who's a biochemist who's based down in Stillorgan and doing a fantastic job helping people who have major and minor medical issues. And we'll be talking to Anthony in a few minutes. We also have Richard Cumbers. Richard is joining us as well, and he's going to throw in a few things, input some information as well while we're talking to Anthony. And then after Anthony and Richard, we have Dermot Murphy from the National Land League and the Hub. And Dermot's going to be giving us an update on things that are going on and anything that's... I think there's a lot of evictions planned for tomorrow. 723 across Ireland tomorrow alone. That's just phenomenal, but we'll talk to Dermot later about that. For the time being, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Yes, communication channels this evening.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, the phone number for the show, 046 927 1212. If you want to call in from outside the Republic of Ireland, the phone number is 00353 469 271212. We also have Facebook, the anti-social media. You can access that from the website. The website again is oymradio.com. You will see the link there for the Facebook. You can check us out there. You also see the link there on the bottom for the YouTube channel. We've got all our a lot of videos and podcasts up there, so please do check them out and subscribe. We also have, for your listening pleasure, on your iPhone, your Apple device or your Android device, we have the TuneIn Radio Link application. You can get that from tunein.com. It is free, and you can stick that on and listen to your heart's content. Alan.
Brilliant, Steve. Now, yesterday we had the United We Strike Radio Marathon, so if you want to pop over to unitedwestrike.com, all the podcasts are available from the shows that they did yesterday. Again, great guests, great information there, so check them out. Steve's going to tell us all about a seminar coming up from Public Banking, I believe.
Yes, well, I'll tell you what I know. I can't tell you everything. Publicbankingalliance.ie, which we mentioned last week, they're going to be running a reform conference, banking and money reform conference in Dublin on the 29th of April, that is this month. It's going to be with Professor Richard Werner and a submission from Positive Money. A summary of the event is Banking and Money Reform Conference, with submission from Positive Money UK. The venue is to be decided on shortly. It's going to be again on the 29th of April. It's going to be a morning to mid-afternoon. That's going to be the duration. And the entry fee for corporate and academics is €50, private individuals €20, and students and unemployed €10. So if you can make your way to that, I'd say it's going to be a fantastic conference. A lot to be learned. So, just put that date in your calendar, the 29th of April.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, now we've heard all about the Panama Papers, and basically they're saying that the Panama Papers lift the lid on how offshore companies are used by the global elite to conceal the ownership and control of assets and property worth billions. Members of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, including the Irish Times, have spent more than a year examining a cache of 11.5 million documents and records from Panama-based Mossack Fonseca, one of the biggest providers of offshore services to individuals, companies and middlemen who advise them. The leaked data covers nearly 40 years from 1977 through to the end of 2015. The files list nearly 15,600 paper companies that banks set up for clients who want to keep their finances under wraps, including thousands created by international joints USB and HSBC. Now, we all know about offshore accounts. I think it's around between 1,200 and 1,600 euros if you want to set up an offshore account. Why do you set it up? Well, to avoid tax, to launder money, or to hide money. That's really what it's all about. So, I think there's a few people that we need to check over here in Ireland to see if they have offshore bank accounts. We'll have to check into it. Now, whether this information was released by a certain group of people to upset the apple cart and to have a go at another group of people. We don't know. It could be faction fighting faction. We don't know. But we'll see what develops over the next few days and the next few weeks regarding that information. But I know David Cameron is getting it in the neck with his 200,000 that his mother gave him, and something about not declaring tax on it. But big protest in the UK apparently for that.
Are we on that list as well?
The slush fund, the offshore bank account.
Fund.
That, no, everyone's in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, okay. So we're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, okay, we're going to move on. A quick story from Johnson & Johnson. Finally, they've admitted that our baby products contain cancer-causing ingredients. We've known this for a long time. This has been on the internet. It's been floating around for many years now. And many parents around the world were actually astonished when they found out that No More Tears baby shampoo produced by Johnson & Johnson includes in its ingredients formaldehyde, which can cause and has been linked with cancer. It is a carcinogen, and it's also famous for its use in embalming dead bodies. Again, it's about time that they've done the right thing, but obviously the back must have been up against the wall. So yeah, it's nice to see that people can now make an informed decision before they buy any of Johnson & Johnson products.
Is it a bit too late for some people though?
It is, because I say a lot of babies who the No More Tears was used on, I'd say they're probably crying now. That was a bad attempt at a joke.
But no, I get your point though. Get your point. Right, okay, UTV.ie, you probably heard that there's calls to introduce penalty points for faulty tyres. A new report into road safety has revealed that faulty tyres were a contributory factor in 1 in 8 fatal road collisions. Now, over here in Ireland, we have the NCT, which is like the MOT over in the UK. Now, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to know how many of the crashes that have been involved regarding faulty tyres are cars that don't have NCTs. Now, I'm not saying, you can't have a faulty tyre even though you pass your NCT and the tyre can get faulty. That's fair enough. But just out of curiosity, on a statistical level, I'd just like to know how many cars that crashed had an NCT. Just to see what the statistics would be, but there you go. Now, the last thing before we bring our guests in the last few weeks, we have people going to the contact form on the OYM radio website and sending in an email, filling out the contact form, and putting a fake email address and then putting in their subject matter and putting in content in the email. And when we try and reply to the email, obviously it bounces back because there's no such email. So what we're going to be doing is that any emails that come in that we can't reply to, we're just going to ignore. All right?
Yeah, so they will not be entertained at all.
They won't be entertained at all. They'll just go straight into the junk file. End of story. So if you are going to send an email in, make sure you have a legitimate email address and make sure that we can reply to you, because sometimes people ask a question and we reply to give them the reason why certain things were done or something was done. And if we're getting a bounce back and you can't let us explain to you what's going on, what's the point in doing it in the first place? All right, so just make sure that if you're going to send us an email, that you have a legitimate email address and we can reply to you and let you know what's going on. Right. Without further ado, we'll get our guests on. Now, our two guests, we have Anthony Hughes. Now, Anthony has an office in Stillorgan, and Anthony has been on the show before. He's a biochemist, and he specialises in natural medicine and not the pharmaceutical junk that you get out there. And a couple of people that have listened to the show have actually contacted Anthony after hearing the interview that he did the last time, and they've had fantastic results after getting the treatments that Anthony recommended. And I actually have, I'm going to read out here a message from one of the guests, one of the listeners, and he said, will you please give some feedback to Anthony on the show? As you know, I went over to him about a year ago, and I was very impressed with the time he spent assessing my ailments, his treatment and advice. I would recommend Tony for anyone who does not want to go to a GP and is pumped full of bad pharma products. If you get a chance, ask Tony about his hip. He wants to know about his hip. Does he have any further suggestions and should I pay him another visit? Well, we'll talk to Anthony in a minute. We also have Richard Cumbers. You know, Richard's been on the show before. Rich is our go-to guy when it comes to the pain genie.
He's our guru.
He's our pain genie guru. And so Richard has jumped on, and he's kind of going to be in a listening capacity, but he's going to jump in every now and again and give us some solid advice about things that we can actually do to improve our health, or maybe products to try and avoid. So without further ado, good evening, Anthony, and good evening, Richard. How are you doing?
Good evening, everybody.
Brilliant.
Good evening. Hi.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys, for coming on the show. It's much appreciated. Anthony, we are going to, we have about an hour or so with you. So, and you have important information that we're talking about today. But let's just kind of start off with a couple of things. One, case history. I'm not going to mention any names, and I think it's important to talk about case histories. But I want to give the listeners an example. If they haven't heard your last show, then this is an example, basically, what happened. A listener was listened to you talking, and basically he had a son who, when he was born, the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck, and he was starved of oxygen. And it's like he had something like ADHD. You know, he's very hyperactive. And, of course, the parents did what they thought was the right thing to do. They went to the doctors, and the doctors pumped him full of pharmaceutical drugs, and he was bouncing off the walls. And, bringing up children is hard enough, but when you have kids that are hyperactive, then it's 10 times worse. And so basically, this person heard the show, he heard you talking to Anthony, and he said, right, I'm going to go and contact Anthony and bring a son down to you. And he did. And he did exactly what the treatment that you recommended. And I was actually in my sister's house at the time. And I seen this little boy come in, ask for something like a pack of crisps or something, and then go back in and sit down and watch the TV. And my sister happened to say, that young boy, that's the young boy that went to Anthony. And she said, he's just a different boy completely. I mean, before he went for the treatment with Anthony, he was bouncing off the walls. There's no way that he would come in and ask for something and then sit down and watch the TV. And look at him now, such a difference. And basically that's because you whatever treatment you gave him or recommended to him, you got rid of all them heavy metals in his body and the pharmaceutical drugs. And he's such a changed boy. And that's only one of many cases you probably have, Anthony. So, a big congrats to that. Do you want to add anything to that or tell us about it?
Well, in this case, I think I know who you're talking about, and since no names are mentioned, I can just give a general comment on this particular case. If it's not the same case, anyway, it will suffice to illustrate. This particular case we're talking about, no names mentioned, a lot of usual things happened here. There was some exposure to aluminium. Now, this can come from deodorants. It can even come from the mother sometimes. There can be traces of this. Or it can be vaccines. I'm not sure if that came from the vaccine in his case. There was the very common problem of herbicide toxicity. And a lot of our water and our foods are polluted with herbicide, especially the likes of Roundup. And the big problem with this herbicide is that what they talk about is the glyphosate, the actual active ingredient, but this is a mixture of many chemicals. And some of the other chemicals that are in this, that it's very hard to find out what they are, it's very hard to test for them, but the other chemicals are hundreds of times more toxic than the glyphosate. Yet what they are examining and testing for is the glyphosate and ignoring the other chemicals. And of course, as usual, they ignore the synergistic effect of chemicals. Investigators would look at this chemical and that chemical and the other chemical and say, look, that's all within the acceptable limits. But they ignore the actual synergistic effect. So this child was suffering from this. Now, also, this particular child, and this could explain a lot of his trouble with ADHD, he was affected by a lack of at least two enzymes. These are inherited factors. There's one called MTHFR, which is an enzyme that metabolizes or changes folate within our bodies. And I say folate instead of folic acid because really the real vitamin is folate. I'll explain a bit more later about folic acid when I come to talk about that topic. So it turns out that after the Human Genome Project was done, or finished around 2007, they discovered that this particular enzyme, the lack of function of it was more common than they expected, than they thought. And it so happens that up to 30% of the population in Western Europe can lack function of this enzyme, to a minor extent, or in some cases to a major extent. And it underlies a plethora of problems, because the folate enzyme, or so the folate vitamin, is extremely important. It's needed to activate, turn on and turn off our genetic code. It's needed for healing. It's needed for producing very important metabolites, including glutathione, the body's master detoxifier. It's also needed for the proper production of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, and also for the breakdown of these neurotransmitters when we've had enough of them, when they've done their job. So this can cause a lot of physiological and psychological and emotional problems, the lack of this enzyme function. This particular lad also had another enzyme deficiency called DHFR, and that also is involved in folate metabolism. So you had two enzymes lacking, which affect the folic acid. In this case, the second enzyme, DHFR, which is called dihydrofolate reductase, this is actually aggravated by synthetic folic acid. I'm saying this because the synthetic folic acid that you buy is not the best item to take for people who have a lack of these enzymes. I'll come back to that later in the program.
Okay.
There was also a problem with manganese. Now, this can come from a number of sources. Some of the cheaper insoles in shoes, they can have an antifungal called Maneb, which is a manganese-based compound. Now, minerals like manganese and all the minerals, if you have none of them or too much, you have a similar effect. You must have the right balance. Either none or too much is a problem. This antifungal causes excess manganese in the body. It's absorbed through the feet. It can also come from the likes of some rices, because they use Maneb as an antifungal to spray the crops. So you also had a problem from this particular item. Now, I know he's doing quite well. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, the other problem. Now, this is another. Recently, they started to produce elastane by a different chemical process. Elastane is the synthetic elastic in a lot of our clothing. And around 2007, there was a patent for a new process using certain chemicals called ethylene diamine, propylene diamine. These are used to make the polymer. But in the actual finished product, it seems to me that what's happening is that these polymers are breaking down with aging and releasing these chemicals, which behave as chelating agents, meaning they latch on to the trace minerals. The herbicide also latches onto trace minerals. This is how it kills the weeds. So the combination of these two, and you can have disruption to manganese, iron, iodine, copper, zinc, chromium, and other minerals. So that's why it's very important, I tell everybody, to always take a very alkaline diet, plenty of fruit and vegetables, because the acidic diets also will tend to clear out the alkaline minerals. Acidic diets meaning too much carbohydrate, too much meat, too much grains, just too much protein.
Yeah. It sounds to me, Anthony, that you do a very comprehensive examination when people go and see it.
Well, that is required. And I always say to people, look, this may take an hour and a half, but what I discovered now or today could be the tip of the iceberg. And I call it human archaeology. especially for older people, because we have been through lots of problems in our lifetime, and if we've been polluted with poisons and contaminants, then they are stored in the body. If the body can't deal with them, and that's by definition what a poison is, then the body's going to stash it away somewhere, like in tissues, connective tissue, fat, in the organs and so on. So very often when you deal with one set of problems, then older problems begin to come up. I see this all the time.
And there's a lot of people out there, and I include myself in this, that, you know, our bodies are getting older, and ailments and certain things are happening. And it's just amazing that when you go to a normal GP, he'll charge you 40 or 50 quid for the visit and spend probably 10 minutes with you. And I know, you know, your fees are quite reasonable, and yet you'll spend an hour and a half with somebody. And I think that's definitely, that's where I'd be going. I'd be going to see you rather than a GP, to be honest with you, because I know I'd get a more comprehensive report and a breakdown of what's going on.
Right, well, you can't point the finger at the GP. The problem is the whole system. Big pharma, the drug companies, control every aspect of medicine, including the education and the ongoing education of the GPs. They don't have the wherewithal to test, see what's really wrong with people. And even when people are referred on to specialists, the specialist investigations are not really looking for the sources and the causes of problems. Many diseases are termed idiopathic, meaning we don't know what's causing it. So the whole focus is on identifying a drug which will actually moderate or block the symptoms.
But when you say that you can't point the finger at the GP, surely they know that they haven't spent a lot of training on homeopathy and the body, and you know that they have the drug companies coming in selling the products. I mean, they're aware of that. It's not as if they're not aware of it.
No, their training, very often they are taught that the likes of homeopathy doesn't work, and it's nonsense and it's rubbish. It's all down to their training. Okay?
Yeah.
So they're not to blame. And anyway, even if they were to learn about the techniques of investigating what poisons are causing trouble, there has been a problem for years where colleagues of doctors who stray from the defined paths, they are attacked. They're excoriated.
Yeah.
They get into trouble, especially in America. Anybody in America doing something that's not recommended and is not approved, they can lose their license.
Yeah, and which
so
has happened.
We have to remember this. There's a lot of control.
Yeah, well, Dr. Simoncini, who's an oncologist in Italy, and he uses sodium bicarb to actually cure cancer, he was struck off. And Andrew Wakefield, obviously, he was struck off because of the MMR vaccine. And Rebecca Carley, we've had on, she was struck off. All these doctors coming out and, you know, talking about the alternatives and what's going on. And yes, that happens. They just get them struck off because they don't like competition.
Yes, they have huge power. Big money, big power. And they are very avaricious in guarding their business. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't make a lot of money out of healing patients.
Yes. You need, it's this, I call it perpetual licensing. You know, where somebody who's a diabetic and every month they have to get their tablets, or they're epileptic and they have to get their tablets. They want perpetual payments of drugs coming in on a monthly basis. They don't want to treat the cause. They just treat the symptom and give you drugs to manage it. And then they just want that concurrent payment coming in every month. And that's how you make the money.
Yes. But like I say, it's all down to education. And the system is really all stacked up against natural medicine and against the investigations of the causes of disease. The notions of the poisons and pollutants being the cause, I think the idea amongst most GPs is that, well, the poison could be one of hundreds of thousands of different problems, different pollutants. How do we figure out what it is? You know, even to test for one costs big money. in the laboratories, to test for 2, more money, to test for a whole range of things, impractical. But if you're using biofeedback techniques, as I use, you can test for lots of these things without huge cost.
Now,
And this is the magic of the biofeedback approach, which was developed in Germany and is ignored and scoffed at now by modern medicine.
I know you're a fan of kinesiology, and we had Stephanie Ralph on the show who teaches that, and she did a great interview regarding kinesiology, and obviously you used the Pain Genie as well. So, do you want to actually have a quick mention about the Pain Genie and kinesiology as to the benefits of them?
Well, I would just say that kinesiology is one technique of feedback, biofeedback, which you can use to test what's causing the person's problem, what are the remedies for it, how long you need it for, and so on and so forth. Now, I was going to tell you about the very big issue of nanoparticles.
Okay, shoot
But
away.
I'd rather leave it to Richard to talk about the Pain Genie for treatments. He's the expert in that.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we'll have to do the nanoparticles. We'll make sure we do that before we finish the show, yeah. Okay, we'll get to Richard. Do you want to come in and have a quick quick talk about the Pain Genie, because we have to sing its praises, because myself and Steve not only have them, but we've used them, and they do what it says on the tin. It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that does seem almost to be too good to be true. But, right now, I think what's really important is what Tony's saying. I mean, if it's okay, if there's time at the end, I'd love to say a bit about it. But I think this understanding of nanoparticles in drugs and different foods is a really important one, and I'd love to hear what Tony's got to say about it. So if it's okay with you, Alan, I'd love Tony to carry on and talk about nanoparticles.
Yeah, okay. Tony, do you want to jump in and we have a few questions coming in, but let's get this subject done, and then we'll do the questions after.
Okay. I have a few instances of patients coming to me. I remember one particular lady who is a long-term patient. She's quite elderly, but fairly healthy. So she came to me one day saying she's feeling very sick, very unwell. And I tested her, and I was puzzled initially, and then I realized that there was something to do with titanium causing trouble. And I'd come across this before, and I said, can you show me what you're taking? And she showed me 4 natural supplements, supposedly natural. They were made by a particular firm, which shall be nameless. And I looked at them, and I could see that the ingredients included in each one of them, there was silicon dioxide. And then I realized that, yes, this is probably nanoparticle, silicon dioxide. Now, titanium dioxide, silicon dioxide, ferric oxide, and other oxides have been used for years as fillers and colorants in foods and in medicines, including natural medicines. But they have been relatively harmless, as far as I know. But recently, what they're doing is they are quietly switching over to the nanoparticle size, which means that they're using very, very tiny sizes of these oxides. Now, these oxides are not soft, soluble items. They are quite hard, insoluble. So they are going through a certain process to make them into tiny particles. With a number of patients, I've noticed that these nanoparticles are coming up in the testing. Because what I did was I got some samples of nanoparticles from manufacturers in the USA, and I made the antidotes, if you like, to these items to use for testing. So I have the actual testing for this. And what became very obvious was that I found people were suffering from various drugs they were taking. But I happened in many cases to have an earlier version of the same drug in my surgery, which earlier patients had left behind. And I found that the older versions of the drugs, the same labeling, the same name, same everything, that they were okay, they reacted okay with the old drugs from the biofeedback testing. whereas the new drugs, very bad reaction. And looking at the ingredients, sure enough, they showed one or other of these oxides. Now, what I have tried to do is I have tried to make inquiries from the manufacturers, several manufacturers, about this. Please, sir, will you tell me what is the quality of the silicon dioxide or titanium dioxide in your product? And in every case, some cases I was ignored, in many cases I was told that they could not give you this information. It was proprietary information. Only one natural medicine company actually replied to me and told me what it was, and it wasn't of nanoparticle size. It's generally considered that particles below 200 nanometers across can be considered to be a nanoparticle. Now, I also got a confirmation from somebody I know who works as a consultant for drug companies that, oh yes, we're using nanoparticles now because they help to carry the actual drugs faster through the membranes and into the cells. And there's something else about this. There's a problem with antibiotics because they have caused so much activation of superbugs that they've come to the end of the line in terms of chemical antibiotics now. So what are they doing? They're using nanoparticles, because nanoparticles penetrate the cell walls of these bacteria and kill them. But they ignore what they're doing to us. And this is the shameful part. There's a plethora of research out there showing that these nanoparticles can cause trouble, that they're harmful. Yet it looks as if this research is done on a different planet or a different universe, because the particles have been used now more and more, and the research points to problems, but it's being ignored. So, like with fluoride in the water, like with the herbicides, like with so many different things in our environment now, the precautionary principle has been abandoned. Abandoned in the name of profits and money.
Yeah.
The EMF, the electromagnetic fields, the Wi-Fi, all of that stuff is causing so much trouble. There isn't, as Professor Martin Powell was saying, there isn't any research showing the safety of it.
Yeah.
Now, I can give you some information about the nanoparticles. Here's a comment from a research done in Trinity College Dublin. New groundbreaking research by scientists at Trinity College Dublin has found that exposure to nanoparticles, commonly used in sunscreen, cosmetics, and other personal care products, can have a serious impact on health, linking it to rheumatoid arthritis and development of other serious autoimmune diseases. So, these things are found in cosmetics and vitamins, and now they are actually being used in drugs. And another research paper on this, about the effects of titanium dioxide nanoparticles, talks about inflammatory reactions, carcinogenic effects, nervous system problems, dermal, that's skin, and mucosal problems. The mucous membranes are affected, the cardiovascular system, the liver, blood production, immune system, the kidneys, the skeletal system, muscles, reproductive system, and also has been shown to cause genotoxicity, that is, alterations to our genes and to DNA. So this is a very big issue. And I have another example to give you. Again, this is a product range that shall be nameless, but there was a very good range of natural products years ago from America. Had a very good name, very good reputation. I saw one of them years ago, and I looked at the ingredients, and I realized, oh, this looks very good. This should be very good. I must get this. And I got it. And to my surprise, never did I find it once showing a positive reaction in any patient on the testing. So I was curious, but I just left it there. And then when I eventually found out there was this nanoparticle problem, I looked at this product and looked at the ingredients, and sure enough, there was silicon dioxide in it. And from testing, I find that it's nanoparticle in nature. Now, that very good company I learned, had been taken over by some big conglomeration in America that produced all kinds of stuff. It's a household name in America. And I learned also that they are ultimately actually owned by the armaments industry. Okay. So, you may see this happening. Small firms, good firms, are being taken over. If they're not pushed out of business, they've been taken over by big business, and their range has been changed.
Mm. Yeah,
I looked at other products that they make, and it looked like these nanoparticles were in all their stuff. So this is something to watch out for.
I've seen this with food, Anthony. Yeah, also in America, there's people actually buying products they bought for years, and then all of a sudden the ingredients are changed, and it's just not the same, and you're not eating food. You know, it's whatever you're eating. One guy in America used to buy this certain type of bread, and then when they changed the actual the manufacturing of it, whatever ingredients they were using, the bread was like a sponge. He started cleaning his car and his sink and his toilets with it, and he said, they want us to eat this. I mean, you wouldn't eat it because it's not food. And this is the frightening thing. And if the pharmaceutical companies are doing the same thing, well, that's frightening. I mean, I would say to anybody that, you know, start looking at, if you have any health issues, start looking at alternative ways. And there's no harm going to your GP to get an opinion, but that's all you need to get off them as an opinion, because the way the medical system is at the moment, in all honesty, you know, they just want to push the drugs. I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry when I lived in London, so I'm quite familiar with certain aspects of it. And I'm just concerned. My GP knows I don't touch pharmaceutical drugs anyway. I don't go near them. I try and avoid them as much as I can, and I try and do as much as I can. But there are some drugs. I'm not saying all drugs. There are drugs there that are beneficial. But I think you have to look at the cause and not just the symptom.
The important point here, and it is a disgrace, is that the doctors and the pharmacists are trained in the knowledge of these medicines. Yet, if you ask your GP or your pharmacist, doctor, please tell me, this product here, see that's silicon dioxide, is that a nanoparticle? He won't be able to tell you. More than that, he won't be able to find out.
Well, even down to the vaccines, Tony, if you look at the ingredients in a vaccine, if you go to your GP and he wants to give you a vaccine and you ask for the instructions and you see, like the flu jab, and they'll say heavy metals or metals in it and formaldehyde, and you think, well, what are they doing in a vaccine? You know, even that, and you say to the GP, why are they in the, he probably won't know.
No, in many occasions the doctor won't know about them and may not know what they are, but it's published. You can find out. That's possible. Yeah. What I'm saying is, with these products, with nanoparticles, you can't find out. Now, I think some of the bigger pharmacists running the hospitals who have got clout of buying a lot of stuff, they could find out. But I was talking to a pharmacist friend of mine today, and he confirmed that no, it's not easy for a pharmacist to find out what it is. Now, if I have something on my shelf, some remedy with no label on it, and I sell it, I can be charged. I could even go to prison for that.
Yeah.
If you get anything on a shelf in the shop and it's not labelled, anything that's processed and not labelled, it's a crime. Yet, the doctors have been cajoled and they're trained, and the pharmacists are led into the situation of selling, passing on stuff where nobody knows what's in it, bar the manufacturers.
Yeah. You see,
this is a disgrace.
That's terrible. I mean, and the same thing when it comes to the likes of drugs or vaccines where they're immune from prosecution. I mean, that's ridiculous. If a doctor or GP or pharmaceutical company stands behind the product, do you think they would do? But the fact they're immune from prosecution means, we're going to give you this crap and you can pump it into your child. But if anything happens, we're not liable. I mean, what parent, in their right mind, if they know about it, would do that?
That's another big story, and that comes down to the corruption of big business and bribery.
Yeah.
This happened mostly in America, where Congress agreed not to prosecute the drug companies for the vaccines. Now, this business that I'm seeing with the nanoparticles is serious. I want to give you a case history. I have a lady about my own age. She's been a patient for a number of years and was generally quite well. And in recent times, her blood pressure began to go up a little bit. She didn't come to me initially with this blood pressure, but the doctor said, oh, your pressure is a little bit high, not much. So he prescribed a drug for her. And her pressure increased. So she went back to him and he said, oh, I better take more. Increase the drug. And the pressure went up even further. So then I think he put her on a second drug. But anyway, when she came to me, she was quite stressed out with this high blood pressure, that things could go wrong at any time, and the drugs weren't helping. I found that there were nanoparticles in those drugs, and they were part of our problem. I said to her, now, I said, what you must do is you must go to your doctor and tell him about this and ask him to supervise you reducing these drugs. And here are natural remedies, and here's the reason why your pressure was high in the first place. And try and gradually come off the drugs and take these natural remedies and see what happens. Well, she didn't do what I told her to do. She actually stopped the drugs there and then, before going to the doctor. And she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, okay, let's check your blood pressure. Oh, it's normal. Well, what are you doing? And she explained to him about the drugs, and he said, oh, stop taking those. That was just one person. Another person also, the same thing. Pressure going up and up and up with the drugs because of the nanoparticles, I believe. Because these nanoparticles are an assault on the body. And the body is not stupid. The body raises blood pressure for a reason. One could be to detoxify, to get blood through the kidneys, through the liver, and through the lymph system faster to try and deal with some problem. Nanoparticles are a problem, and a stress the bodies will cause the pressure to go up.
So you're going to have to watch out for them. We have a few questions that's come in, but I just want to bring Richard back in there. Richard, do you want to make a comment on that or ask Anthony about what he just said?
No, I think it's really interesting. I mean, there's one thing I kind of see eye to eye with Tony on just about everything, but one thing I don't really see eye to eye is about these comment about saying that it's not doctors' fault. Because the way I see it is that, doctors take a Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. And we see time and time again, I mean, literally time and time again all over the place, where the doctor is actually giving the patient something that's making them worse. And so the way I see it is that, when there is a balanced playing field and people have a choice between a natural remedy and a synthetic remedy, for example, that's fine. But unfortunately, now doctors, and I agree with Tony about their training, etc. And an American doctor, it costs $300,000 to get trained, and that's paid for by big pharma, so they become a pharmacist rather than a doctor. But I think really we have to be a bit more forceful with our doctors because look at the studies. When doctors went on strike, death rates plummeted. They dropped. So I think we've got a situation here where with the toxins being put into natural food companies when they're taken over, and labeling is not done properly. For example, now you've got in America, if you get less than 5% GMO product in your produce, they can put GMO free on it. I mean, this is absolutely barking mad. And so I think really doctors, although a lot of them think they're doing the right thing, they really have to think about what they're doing, because a lot of them now know, especially the younger ones coming up, that they're actually not helping people at all. And they know also that it's not a level playing field. And I get lots of people coming to me from doctors who are awake saying, look, my doctor said, look, he can't really help me with this, but he said that, you might be able to help me. The Pain Genie could probably help me. Someone like Tony could help me. And they're now passing people on. But, these people could get struck off for this because they're only allowed to prescribe, drugs and surgery and this type of thing. So I really think that doctors out there listening to this need to wake up and need to realize that, look in the States, average age of a person in the States, last time I looked, was 76. And the average age of a physician in the States was 58. I think it says an awful lot, and I just think that there's too many people just very happy to sit back, take the money, and get the praise from the patient. This white coat syndrome of, oh well, thank you, doctor, and oh, thank you so much, doctor.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I think the discussion about what's wrong with the medical system, it's not useful enough because it's just being ignored. People complain. The system's a shambles. What I'm suggesting is that the patients notice the nanoparticle problem, silicon dioxide, titanium dioxide, ferric oxide. There are 3 examples of nanoparticles. They look on the inserts for their drugs, which they should have, and notice a lot of people are not getting the inserts. And if they see these mentioned, they should ask the doctor, please doctor, can you tell me, is this a nanoparticle? And insist on finding out. Because unless people are pushing the system to change, it won't change. And change must come from the patient, in my view. It won't come from the doctors themselves. They're far too busy. Yeah. They're far too stressed trying to deal with all the sick people. Certainly it won't come from the top. It won't come from the professors and the drug companies and the colleges. They have their own bottom lines that they are being influenced too much. So I'd say to people, really, this is a problem for you. It's increasing all the time. Ask your doctor, please, doctor, is this a nanoparticle?
Yeah.
And he may not understand what the terms mean, but he needs to find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the patients need to know.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah, just very quickly, Anthony. I actually know a lot of people, and I've actually kind of explained to them when they do visit the GP and they are put on medication that they should always read the insert very, very carefully. And a lot of people have actually said to me that is the very first thing they throw out once they open the box, because they don't want to read it because they're afraid of what it might say. You know, all the contraindications.
Yes, indeed. And I see quite a lot of medicine bottles with the actual name of the drug covered over by the pharmacist's label, with the name of the patient on it, and take twice a day. So you can't even see from on the label what you're getting.
That's quite convenient. Anthony, before we go off to the questions, I just want to check, Richard, are you still there?
No, Richard did say to us before we come on that he was experiencing a storm down where in his part of the world, and he said weather was quite bad and the Skype wasn't fantastic. So we're continually trying to get him back on. So
okay, we'll see how we get on.
Yeah.
Do you want to go off to the questions now, and we'll quick fire them over to Anthony?
Yeah, we've a lot of questions coming in, Anthony. A lot of interest in this subject. Where to start? But just something that when you were talking about the blood pressure earlier on, Chris wrote in and Chris said that he checked the so-called side effects of a drug that he was put on by his GP for a sore hip. One of the side effects was high blood pressure. So he obviously went back to the GP, and the GP put him on more tablets to combat the high blood pressure. And he went on to say that he's not taking any of them now at the moment. He stopped taking them. So that's kind of a positive step. And
good. You know, in that situation, of course, he probably never found out what was causing the problem in the first place.
I think he might have.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
Because I think he paid a visit to yourself.
He did. He has a hip problem, and he said he just wants to know there, as I said at the start of the show, does suggestions, should I pay for another visit? So he just wants to know, would it be worthwhile him paying another visit to you because of his hip acting up? Because there's a lot of people now getting the hip operations and getting arthritis or whatever the symptom they have. And I know, speaking to Richard, we heard about lack of magnesium and Clive de Carl, and we need to make sure the body has enough of that. Which helps out, and I've been taking the Celtic sea salt and stuff like that, but what's your take on that, Anthony?
Well, obviously I don't know who the person is, and the causes of the hip could be manifold, could be many different causes which are involved there, and the treatment may help, alright, it may work, but unless you've dealt with the cause of the problem, then trouble could come back. So I don't know what the case is, who he was. I don't know if the cause of the problem was gone. Certainly a repeat visit to have more testing to see are the original problems gone, or are there more problems?
Okay, well, he's on the chat room there, so I'm sure he's heard heard you say that. He'll probably book another visit and pop down and have a chat with you. We'll pop over to, we have a few more questions there, Steve.
Yeah, Dale on the chat room, Anthony, is wondering, can you define nanoparticle, please, as dust in dust as a nanoparticle?
Yes, as I was saying earlier, it's generally accepted that diameters less than 200 nanometers is considered to be classified as nanoparticle.
Okay.
Less than 200 nanometers across.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
And the nanometer, of course, is 1/1000th of a meter.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I think that answers that. Joan said earlier in the chat room, iodine being rubbed onto skin that doesn't disappear quickly. Does this mean you're lacking in iodine, and has it something to do with the thyroid gland?
Well, yes, the thyroid gland makes the hormone thyroxine using iodine and other metabolites. And if the iodine disappears or is absorbed quite rapidly, that's often an indication that there's a lack of iodine. But I don't have experience myself of doing this. And you need to have some experience of actually applying this to somebody and see the different rates of absorption. And you also must remember that everybody's different, so we can't all compare ourselves to another person exactly because we're different. But I've no experience of using that test, in other words, the application of iodine on the skin.
Yeah, but something like iodine or iodine.
It would be a solution. Iodine itself is a natural solid, right?
Yeah.
Pure iodine is a solid, and it's kind of, if you heat it, it evaporates. It goes straight from the solid into the gaseous state.
Okay.
And what's often done is that this solid is dissolved, heated in a bit of alcohol, and that's one way of making a solution of it.
Right. So if someone rubs it on and it doesn't disappear quickly, or it does disappear, if it does disappear quickly, they may think that they have and they're deficient in this, but depending on the absorption rate, they may not be. So obviously, it's worth getting someone like you to get
depending on their
tested.
physiology, and also depends on experience. I wouldn't be able to judge because I haven't been doing that test.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. Where are we going next? Delamitri back on chat says, old people used to take Epsom salts daily for electrolytic balance. Is that something you can comment on?
Well, like Epsom salts, it's magnesium sulfate. Okay?
Yeah.
And taking magnesium does help. It also is useful for helping to, in some cases, clear out some accumulation of bile in the liver. In fact, those who do the gallbladder flush, they will often use Epsom salts. There are various recipes for doing this. But an important thing about Epsom salts is that it's good to take it in a bath as well.
That's it. I was going to say that, the old Epsom salt bath.
Yes. It helps to absorb toxins from the muscles. The body, if it's poisoned, will try and get rid of stuff through the skin. Often the stuff is stored in the muscles and the ligaments and so on. So a good long bath with the magnesium sulfate, the Epsom salts, helps to absorb toxins. It helps circulation as well. The magnesium is good for heart function. It's good for circulation. It's good for many different things. It is a very important mineral. It is, of course, needed as a balance to the calcium in your body. And very often, people who are trying to treat problems of osteopenia and osteoporosis, they don't take enough magnesium. And they're given remedies that just have calcium in it. And by the way, there is an issue that's been shown with calcium carbonate. It's not the ideal form. You should have something that is a calcium citrate and some magnesium salt, plus, if possible, other minerals like manganese and boron to help with your osteoporosis or osteopenia,
Well,
not just calcium carbonate.
the Epsom salt, it's just amazing how society has got to the stage now there. Probably the majority of people have showers for convenience and speed, where years ago you'd probably have a bath. And maybe we need to go back to the old-fashioned way. Maybe there's reasons why Mother used to do certain things with certain chemicals in the house, fixing things, and the Epsom salt baths. All these were practical health benefits to our body, which we don't seem to do anymore, or we don't have the time.
I can tell you, about 2 years ago, I had an unfortunate accident where I tore badly my calf muscle. Really was a very bad injury. And I was going through terrible pain at night time, lying in bed with that. And the best part of the day was getting up in the morning, hobbling to the bath, which had Epsom salts in it. And as soon as I got in that bath, I could feel the pain just melting away. That was the best part of my day until it healed up.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that now, as we're talking about it. I'm thinking...
Having a bath?
An Epsom salt bath. Well, a jacuzzi. Apparently on their chat room, they're all talking about a jacuzzi there. We don't want to miss out on the jacuzzi. Do you have more questions there for Anthony?
Well, first of all, Anthony, the Epsom salts, is that something that's readily available just for anyone who's kind of interested? Is it health food shop or supermarket, or where can one get this?
Health food shop.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the grade that would be used for baths is in bulk. It wouldn't be as pure as the stuff you might need to take if you were taking it orally, internally. Right. So you can get big bags or big containers of just ordinary grade Epsom salts. Yeah.
Right. So
maybe supermarkets as well.
Is there a certain amount that you would need in a bath? I mean,
well, I'd suggest that somebody tries maybe 2 cups to start with. If you feel okay with that, maybe try increasing it.
Oh, okay.
Start off with a smaller amount, because the person's very toxic. It might induce quite a severe itch.
Okay.
And of course, the itch, again, is not something to be afraid of, or to worry about, or to take Piriton or other blocking drugs for. The itch is the body's mechanism of getting the toxins to the surface.
It wouldn't cause a healing crisis or anything like that, would it?
If somebody is very toxic and they use an awful lot of it, and to begin with, it could cause a bit of a reaction. I wouldn't call it a crisis, a healing reaction. Crisis is, a bit strong.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Steve?
Yes, where we go next. Joan is wondering, Anthony, is it true that people store anger in the liver?
According to traditional Chinese medicine, this is correct, yes. Anger in the liver, and the gallbladder is a more serious form of anger, known as, what's it called? Really bad anger. Now, I mean, this can be explained also in physiological terms. The various emotions are mediated in the body by neurotransmitters. When emotion is created, there's a certain neurotransmitter that is involved in that. The body makes neurotransmitters, and then it's meant to break them down, to get rid of them. And if you have blocks in the metabolism, which breaks down these neurotransmitters, then the body often stores these neurotransmitters in the tissues. And this is what's known as tissue memory. So, if these waste items are stored, and later on then you take remedies to clear them out, you can get back memories of those emotions coming up. And this is what happens. Now, the liver, why the liver? I'm not sure. These things are stored probably in liver, all right, and also other tissues. But why particularly the liver, I don't know.
Okay. Just to kind of to add to that, Anthony, if somebody was diagnosed with a problem with the gallbladder and was scheduled to have it removed, is that something that could be reversed if they went to you, or is it too late if it has to be removed?
Generally not.
No?
Often the actual stones are small stones, and not that hard either. So the small stones are easily cleared out. And there are plenty of recipes online called gallbladder flushes.
Yeah.
There's also a flush for the larger stones. The larger stones won't come out that easily because they just won't go down the actual sphincter from the gallbladder and into the common bile duct. They won't pass that way. But you can take remedies to help break down those stones over a period of time. And to say the recipes for all this. Now, what's also is important is that people should investigate why the stones form in the first place. Yeah, that could be diet. It could be inherited factors. It could be taking too much acidic food, meaning too much protein, too much meats, grains, and not enough fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, I think we were all guilty of that to a certain extent. Not so much Steve, because Steve's a vegetarian, but especially for the carnivores, we probably do tend to do an awful lot of that. It's something that I'm looking at myself in my diet and trying to change it and make my diet more alkaline rather than acid. And have some kind of balance there. Steve, you got another question for Tony?
Yeah, can I just add a reason for that? You see, the contents of the gallbladder are solubilized. It's like an emulsion. And the stability of that emulsion depends on the alkalinity of that. And the sodium is quite important for that to make everything in the gallbladder soluble. Sodium, in other words, and other salts is important. Now, if you are very acidic, that will tend to remove these alkaline minerals in your body, and the contents of the gallbladder become less soluble and tend to form the stones.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I put up a video on YouTube was about alkalizing your tea. I use green tea, unbleached tea bags. Because I was told that bleached tea bags have the chemical they use to bleach them is carcinogenic. So I use unbleached green tea bags. And what I do is get some sodium bicarb, and I on the video, the YouTube tutorial I did, I have pH strips. So I did a pH strip of the actual green tea, and it was something like 6.5 or 6.2. And then when I put a small bit of bicarb in, used a spoon to mix it in and got another strip and tested it. It went up to about between a 7 and an 8. And it didn't taste any difference, but I've just created, my tea is more alkaline. So, anything to kind of increase the alkalinity in my body.
How much of the bicarbonate do you use?
Oh, just a small bit. It's just a pinch.
Yeah, well, that sounds fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all different, and I teach all my patients to test everything. They may ask me, is this okay for me? Is that okay for me? And I say, look, learn to do this test, and you can test for yourself, because we're all different, and I can't tell everybody what is right for them. Yeah. What's right for them may be wrong for somebody else.
Yeah.
So if I was doing that, I would be testing the tea before and after by a balance test, which is described on my website, the balance test.
Yeah. No, you showed us that when we did a Plain Genie training. You were there. Is Richard back there, Steve?
No.
Okay.
Still trying to get him, but no luck.
They're having issues down there with the weather and everything else. That's okay. Do you have more questions there for Tony?
Yes, we do. Dell says, can you ask Tony, can he tell us what is in curing salts? A 25 kilo bag of this is less than a tenner in the co-op. Horse owners use it daily as an electrolyte for working animals.
Well, with all these items, you must know what's in it. You must know what the ingredients are. I don't know what the ingredients in that are.
Right.
No, those salts could be all kinds of different salts. I don't know. They could be trace minerals. I don't know. I've never heard of this, but the important point is that one should know what the ingredients are. Where does it come from? What is it?
Exactly, yeah. So they need to do their own little bit of research, I believe.
The possible variations in a salt or a curing salt could have all kinds of salts in it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, then Dale's going to have to just maybe check the label or do his own little bit of research.
It could simply be Epsom salts with a different name.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it could be Glauber salts, which is also used to help clear out the gallbladder and the liver. That glauber salts is sodium sulfate. It is a bit harsher than the magnesium sulfate.
No.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, we'll move along, Tony. John is wondering, do you know anything about restless leg syndrome and its cause?
There can be many causes of this. Sometimes it's easy to identify what it is. In some cases, it's not. I've seen cases of restless legs clearing up and other cases that haven't cleared up. So there's no easy answer to that. It's probably different for different people. Lack of minerals, lack of certain vitamins like B1 and so on could be an answer. But there's so many different possibilities, and then there's also the unknown. In other words, it's very difficult to pinpoint what it is.
Yeah,
but there's no one answer, right, for everybody. A lack of magnesium can be a problem. Lack of vitamin B1 can be a problem. Then there are other possibilities.
So obviously, if someone is suffering from something like that, it would probably be best to go to maybe yourself or someone like you and just have it tested.
It's best to have testing,
yeah.
Yes, because guessing is no use.
No, I agree, because a long time ago I was told that I was deficient in, I can't remember what it was, whatever's in bananas, and because I used to get potassium, yes, that's what it was, thank you. And I was told, you're deficient in potassium, just eat plenty of bananas. And I ate plenty of bananas, and at one point in time I still got the leg cramp. So I kind of, it knocked out on the head. There obviously wasn't potassium. And again, obviously, you read something on the internet and you assume, that's what it is, that's what I have. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. And as you say, you should get yourself to someone and get checked out. Just to rule out something else. What else we got? Just jumping back very quickly. What effects, either negative or positive, does having the gallbladder removed on the body, Anthony? Do you know?
Well, the gallbladder, of course, serves a purpose. And its purpose is to store bile salts, which we use to emulsify fatty foods. And, of course, I'm going to say right away that fat is not bad.
Yeah.
There is bad fat and good fat. And, unfortunately, in recent decades, fat has got a bad name. It's very important to have fat. Good fat, but not the bad fats.
Yeah, we've got, me and Steve are good fat. I think we're good fat, Steve, are we?
Yeah. But it's also important to be able to assimilate these fats properly. And if you are eating fat and you don't assimilate it very well, or if you get it in through your small intestine and it's not properly solubilized, it's not, not emulsified adequately, you can get a deposit of this fat on the portal vein, which is carrying the nutrients absorbed from your small intestine to your liver. So the first place the foods go after absorption is to your liver. And if they're not adequately solubilized, then it can deposit on the portal vein and cause partial blockage in the portal vein. Now, what can that do? That can result in varicose veins in the stomach, and also can cause hemorrhoids in the rectum and other problems. Why is that? Because every time you eat a meal, the blood flow revs up to take the food from your small intestine. But if it's partially blocked, then the body is pumping hard to try and get this blood through these veins. And you get back pressure, which manifests in the weaker spots, like in the rectum, and sometimes in the stomach itself. So that's one reason why the gallbladder is important. And the reason why I mention this is because, unfortunately, now the likes of dairy fat is pasteurized and heated. And they also make it into small little globules. Now, this pasteurization destroys the enzymes, which we don't have because of that. These enzymes break down the fats, and some enzymes just are not adequate, so we get the enzyme in the milk. When it's pasteurized, it's gone, and you get more deposition of the fats in the portal vein. So often children who have been fed on pasteurized milk when they're younger, they end up with this problem in the portal vein.
And we're not supposed to be actually drinking milk, because I went to a seminar with Bernard Bowen and one of the doctors from the Hippocrates over in Florida, and he said we're the only animal, really, that after being weaned, that we carry on drinking milk. All the animals don't touch milk, and we're drinking cow's milk. And although there is calcium in the milk, it also causes osteoporosis.
Now, it's true, we're one of the few species that drinks another animal's milk. But the point about calcium in milk is interesting. You see, there is plenty of calcium in milk, but it's not that easily absorbed. So it isn't the right source of calcium for us.
Okay, well, there you go. That kind of sums it up. Yeah.
I always say to my patients, where do the cows get their calcium? What's the answer? Grass.
Yeah, okay.
What's our best source? Green, leafy vegetables.
Yes.
And also we get more magnesium from the green. There's not a lot of magnesium available for some reason from the milk. You want to have a balance of all these minerals, not just calcium.
Of course. And then we have to be careful that if the cows are eating grass that's contaminated or there's pesticides on it, we're actually taking that on board as well.
That's right. That's why I teach people to test their food. Now, you mentioned the other business about the acidity. One reason why milk is not a good source of milk, or calcium, is that it has an acid residue. The protein in the milk is acidic after digestion. That will tend to take away the minerals.
Yeah, I don't touch milk.
The biggest study ever done on this was done on thousands of nurses in Boston. What they found was that the nurses who took the most dairy products in their lifetime had the least healthy bones. Those who took the less dairy products had the better bones.
Wow. That's
the biggest study ever done.
Wow. And, we've said this before on the show about milk and for people to be careful. But, Anthony, we've reached that time, the interview, and I'm sure we could go on. And, again, we're going to do another interview with you because the information is so important. Richard sends his apologies. His connection went down, and he said he can't get back on. His Skype's crashed. And just so happened when he was talking about medical doctors for some reason. That's uncanny. But a big thank you, Anthony, for coming on. I'd just like to say, if you pass on my thanks to Christine, when I went down and we had the Pain Genie training in Dingle a few weeks ago, Christine, which is your daughter, was a brilliant hostess, and she did great food. Vegetarian food, may I add? Vegetarian food. I'm a carnivore.
And I missed out.
And you missed out. And she's a great host and great food. So please pass on her thanks for that. And again, thanks for coming on the show.
I will tell her that. Now, there was the issue of taking folate or methylfolate and plenty of leafy greens instead of folic acid for some people. But I'll discuss that the next time. It's an important issue.
Yeah, well, definitely we're going to do a part 3 because this information is very important for people to know that they can actually take care of their own health, that you don't have to go to doctors. And obviously you're there as well. I believe you're retiring. A little birdie tells me you might be retiring. Is that true?
No, I can't retire. There's too much to do.
Exactly. Sure, you have to save the world.
The last thing I want to say is I want to emphasize that there are people like me, but really, people need to take care of themselves. For far too long, the concept has been, oh, you're sick, oh, you better see a doctor. People are not looking after themselves.
Yeah.
They aren't looking at the labels. They aren't educating themselves. They're leaving it to the mechanic, the doctor, to fix them.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. People need to have more awareness of what the environment we're living in. And the big problem these days is our environment. It's getting worse. Yeah,
definitely the environment is getting... We've speaking to Dr. Michael Kelly, and he was saying the same thing. It's very hard to be healthy in an unhealthy environment.
Yes, indeed. But thank you for having me on.
No problem.
Enjoyed
Listen,
it. Okay.
Anthony, much appreciated. Thanks a lot. Just stay with us there for a minute, Anthony.
Okay.
We're just going to go over to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, and we're back. Just a little 500 miles there with the old Proclaimers. Great little song there for everyone who liked it.
Brilliant stuff. Right, our next guest is a chap called Dermot Murphy. Dermot was actually on a few weeks ago. He's been on a few times on the show. He's great information. He's a man on the ground who's involved with the evictions and helping people to take on the banks or fight the banks or get a line of communication with the banks so they don't get evicted from the homes, and a hell of a lot more work. And he's a very active activist, and he's doing a brilliant job. Now, Dermot went out and they have a van now, and for advertising, because we were amazed at the fact that so many people didn't know about the Hub, the National Land League, OYM Radio, and everybody else. We were just amazed. So Dermot went out and got a van, and fair play to him. He offered the back windows for advertising for OYM Radio, and we took him up on that straight away. And if you want to see what it looks like, go over to our Facebook page, and we have the photo of the van with the OYM pictures on the back, the images on the back. So a big thank you for Dermot for that. Good evening, Dermot. How are you doing?
Good evening. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Listen, Dermot, before we talk about what's going on, myself and Steve would just like to say thanks for doing that for us. It's much appreciated.
You're quite welcome anytime.
Brilliant. It's just good advertising because, as I said, we were shocked that so many people, that when you go to the court, and I've been down at Trim Court, as you know, Dermot, and we've been down there, and we say to people, have you ever heard of the National Land League or the Hub or Open Your Mind Radio? And they go, no, never heard it at all. And I'm just, I thought Ireland isn't that big. You would think by word of mouth people would hear something, but and fair play to you. So do you want to tell people the idea of the van?
Well, the idea of the van came about 5-6 weeks ago. You probably heard about there was a guy on the motorway. He was getting evicted from the banks. We have found out it was the AIB afterwards. And he drove up on the Cashel bypass down at Tipperary there, and he parked his car, and he texted his best friend. He said, will you phone me wife after this text? He said, because I can't do it. Tell her I love her and the kids. And with that, he put the phone on the passenger seat, and he just jumped out in front of the truck, and he killed himself. Now, what happened after that was, there was a girl down there, Maria, a friend of mine, and she rang me that night, and she said, oh my God, she was in tears, she was crying her eyes out. Dermot, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I said, look, leave it with me. And I stayed awake for 2 nights over that, thinking about that. How the fuck? Now, we found out the next day that the man himself that committed suicide, somebody had met his wife the next day and the family, and they were totally distraught, 4 children, that he had never heard of the Hub, or he had never heard of the Land League, he had never heard of anti-eviction, he heard of nobody. So I lay awake, as I said, for 2 nights, and I said, we have to do something. So I come up with the idea, and I said to Maria, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a van, and I'm going to put stickers all over it with, do not be ashamed of the mortgage assessors, no shame, stay in your homes, here's the numbers to ring, the Hub, the Land League, the Anti-Eviction Task Force, and that's what I did. But the thing is, I'd no money. So I said, how do I go about this? So I put it up on Facebook. I said, look, we have to get a van. I put a huge big post up saying what I wanted the van for. To get to the courts, get to the supermarkets, get to the shops, get to the square and tell everywhere with this van, and let people know that there's help there. And I put it up, and we got a GoFundMe page going, and I put down a target of $5,000 to go up to the north and get a good van. But after about a week, we had, I think, 800 on the page. And then this guy rang me, a mechanic. He says, Dermot, I have a lovely van here if you want to have a look at it. And I went over, had a look. Long story short, I took the van. It was a perfect little van. He gave me a great deal on it. And then I went, of course, a printer came on board, a really good friend of ours, you know him, David. And these guys just gave me the stickers for free. And I stuck them on the van. And since then, I've been going around all the courts, on Trim Court tomorrow. And I have a big pull-up sign as well for the people to see, and leaflets and, cards and everything. And it's going great. And the message is getting out there. I mean, even today, a woman texted me, yesterday morning, she said, you don't know me, Dermot, but my daughter gave me your number. And you want to hear this story, you wouldn't believe this. I actually put it up on Facebook yesterday. The woman was looking out our window. This is the truth now, and I got on to Brian and told him, you see, I can't believe this myself. She was looking out her window of her house, and this man was taking pictures of her house. So she went down and she said to him, what are you doing taking pictures of my home? And he said, oh, it's for the sale. So she said, what sale? well, he says, your house has been sold. She says, I didn't put my house up for sale. And he says, well, it's in the auctioneers, it's up for sale. And she says, what are you talking about? So she phoned the auctioneer, and then she went down to see the auctioneer, and she got a court order, an eviction order last June on her house, and she didn't even know. She wasn't even in court.
That's incredible.
And I said to her, what the hell? So I rang her then, and I was talking to her for a good while, and I said, look, Brian got on to me then in the hub. He says, Dermot, I'll take over this. And then he rang the woman, and it's sorted now. But that shows you what's going on. But we're still reaching people today that have not heard of the hub. Now, I've opened up a hub in Mullingar here, only yesterday. We opened up a hub, we got an office, and we're going to start getting the message out. And as I said, I'll be in Trim Court tomorrow. I'll have the van outside the court. I'll have the pull-up sign. I was at the cathedral here in Mullingar this morning, one of the churches. And it's just getting the message out to people. And if anybody is listening here, and they think that their neighbours or their friends or anything is having difficulty, talk to them and get them to ring us, because we will help them stay in their home. There's no problem, you know.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Dermot, I'm going to try and get down to you during the week in the office down in Mullingar, because I want to take I want to get a few photos, promo photos, and I want to start putting, there's a few websites I want to start putting things up and letting people know that you're there. And just get the word out, because again, I'm very surprised when people, because the internet's there. Surely people go to Google or whatever search engine they use and type in eviction help or something like that up through word of mouth. And
there's a lot of people not in the internet. These farmers, 3 farmers committed suicide in the last few weeks, and they haven't got the internet. Now, there's a huge thing happening on Tuesday, and I can't get down there. It's down in Cork. They're going to take this man's cattle, and they're going to sell them at the market, and they're going to take his farm. K-Tech and all is down there. And if this happens, then every farm in this country will be under threat. This is a global corporate takeover. They have to spend the 1.5 million to get this man's farm,
Yeah.
And the money is no object. K-Tech and his bullies are down there, all foreigners, and they're in a hotel, a 5-star hotel. They're staying in a 5-star hotel, ready to pounce on this farm on Tuesday. And there's a few people going down, a few activists, anti-eviction and stuff, are going down to try and stop it, This has to be stopped.
Yeah, no, what people need to understand, and we've talked to a number of guests on the show about this, on and off the air, and when people say, oh, surely, if they pay a few quid, the banks would be happy with that. But what people have to realise is that this is a global asset take. They don't want people paying a little bit of money to stay in the home, because the financial system is a massive Ponzi scheme, and it's about to crash, and we know it is. Mathematically, it just cannot sustain itself. So what the banks are doing are taking as much assets as they can wherever they are. And even people who are paying the mortgage and can afford a mortgage doesn't mean you're safe, because the vulture funds could come in and go and send you a letter to say get out. Now, you wanted to talk about that as well, Dermot, about these letters that the banks are sending out.
Yeah, the vulture funds are buying up all these loans. Now, the only thing about these vulture funds, there's probably people listening now that don't even know that their mortgage is being sold to some crowd in America. Now, the only thing with these vulture funds is that there's no regulations with them. They're not backed up by the CCMA, the Code of Conduct of Mortgage Arrears. They've nothing to adhere to. They will do what they like. If they want to put 3% interest on your loan, they'll put it on. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to price people out of their houses. And I keep telling people, there's 295,000 empty houses in this country. And people are walking the streets homeless, and people are getting thrown out. And there's 5,550 men, women and children, young kids staying in hotels and the whole lot. The councils are paying $750 a week for each family in these hotels. All these families have to do and just go out and just open one of these empty houses and go into it. We put a homeless couple into a house here at Christmas. They were walking the streets on Christmas Day, and somebody texted me and said, oh, Dermot, there's a homeless couple down there. So we went down, we met them in the hotel, and we just opened up a house and we put them into it. And they're still there today in a 3-bedroom house.
That's brilliant.
Just take the houses and to hell with the government. Open up the houses, get into them, and but don't take a house that belongs to the receivers. Make sure you know which house you're taking. And all you have to do is just do a search on the house and say which bank owns it, and it was repossessed by a bank, and just take the house. Yeah. And then when they come around looking for you, say, I gave a guy $550 for rent and I'm in here, then the PRTB gets involved, but you'll be inside with the roof over your head,
Exactly. I know where you're coming from with that. Now, Ken Smullen, who's on Facebook as well, he gets involved, and some people know him from the IDP party, and he said next Monday, which is tomorrow, He said 723 families are being hauled before the eviction courts by the bailed out banks in the following locations: Dublin, Castlebar, Letterkenny, Waterford, Naas, Cavan, Wexford, Galway, Trim, Portlaoise and Wicklow. 723, and that's only tomorrow.
That's only tomorrow. And then you have Cork then, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday, and you have 282 in Cork the same day. The one day, 282 people. But the thing is, a lot of the people, I was in Tullamore last week for the court, and only, I think, out of 60 people, I think 8 or 9 people turned up. And we thought that was a great success, because normally only 2 people turn up.
Yeah.
And like that woman there, the people probably didn't even know that they were in court. You know, a lot of them don't even know. They're not even informed that they're in court.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the sheriff will arrive at your door. And it could happen to one of your listeners. The sheriff will just arrive and tell you to get out. You know, you've got an hour or 2 to get out. You had an eviction order last year. So people want to be checking the court registry and just making sure that they're not in court, you know.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Now, tell us about this letter that you wanted to mention, what the banks are up to save themselves some money.
Which one?
You know, the banks are sending out these letters telling people...
They're sending out a 7-day letter to people.
Yeah.
We call it the 10-day letter. It used to be 10 days. Now it's 7 days. And the banks have sent out thousands of these letters to people saying you have 10 days to either voluntary sale, give the keys back to us, or just basically move out, you know.
No.
And because people are getting this letter with the headed bank on it, AIB or Bank of Ireland, whatever it is, Start Mortgages, the people think it's an official letter. And they're actually moving out. Some people are moving out and handing back the keys and going to stay with their families. But just to stress the people here that's listening, no bank, it doesn't matter who they are, whether it's Start Mortgages or anybody, cannot tell you to leave your home unless it's a court-evicted court order, you know, an eviction order by the court.
Yeah.
And what the banks are doing is, because when the banks take a case to court, it costs them over €65,000 from the start to the finish. From the time they serve you with the civil bill to the time you get evicted, it costs the bank 64 to maybe 70,000 for the whole process. And what they're doing with these letters, say they send out 5,000 of them and only 500 people scanned in the case, they've saved themselves millions and millions of pounds in legal fees, you know.
Yeah.
And they're doing this every now and then, and I appeal to people, if you get a letter from them banks to say you have 7 days to move out or 10 days to move out, phone up the bank and say, take me to court, you are not getting my house, and let them take you to court. And just to remind people that the first time you go to court, every time it's adjourned, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
The first time you go to court, it's an automatic adjournment. It's a month or maybe 2 month adjournment. The second time you go to court, you will say to the registrar that you are going to defend your home, and then the registrar will say, okay, you'll need time to put an affidavit, and she will adjourn it for 3 months or maybe 6 months. It depends on the registrar. And then the next time you go to court, in that time you'll be talking to me or the hub in Mullingar, and we'll prepare an affidavit for you for the bank. And then the next time you go to court, it will be the bank that will be asking for adjournments, because the stuff that we print the affidavits will shut them out, you know.
Now, the thing is, Dermot, and you know this as well as I do, when you go down to Trim Court or go down to the courts and there's 80 or so cases up and there's only a handful of people that's turned up, that's shocking, because they either probably feel, I mean, when we have spoken to people, they feel that there's no chance that we're going to win against the bank, so we're just going to, you know, not do anything about it. Some people will bury their head in the sand. Some people are told by the bank solicitors, oh, you don't need to turn up, and you should always turn up, regardless, even though it's going to be adjourned, you should always turn up. And that's the shocking part, that when there's so many cases, but only a handful of people turn up on the courts, you know, any court case, really, when it comes to, you know, what's going on with the banks, you should always turn up. And
always turn up, yeah. I mean, it's a stigma as well. The stigma of shame and all this that are in this. But people have to remember, the people of this country did nothing wrong. It was the banks that gambled on the market, and by doing so, they lost 300,000 people their jobs and livelihoods.
Yeah.
And it was the bank that caused the people not to be able to pay their mortgages, not the people. They took away their jobs and livelihoods. And what did we do? We bailed them out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think what the banks are doing now, and I really think, and we'll end up getting it, is that all the arrears that people have should be written off, because we bailed out the banks. There was $9 billion given to the banks to help people in distressed mortgages, $9 billion. And so far today, I have emailed every party, including Sinn Féin. I've emailed them all to find out where this $9 billion has gone, and nobody knows where that money went, you know?
Yeah,
so the banks should bail out the people, switch off their arrears, and bring the houses back to the value of the house today. Not people paying $350,000 mortgage for a house that worth $120,000. If the house is worth €80,000, reset the mortgage to €80,000 and start it. Press the reset button, you know.
Well, it should be all relative, basically, with the economy. So if your house is valued at a certain amount, then you pay the mortgage on that value. I mean, that makes sense. You know, and that's a good thing. That they should be doing that. But see, then again, you know, we have puppets in the government. You know, they just, you know, these people are getting 94 grand a year as a TD, and they're saying, oh, well, we all have to feel the pain. Look, I'm happy to feel the pain at 94k. What do you think, Steve?
I totally agree. Well, look, we haven't even got a government at the moment.
No,
we haven't got a government,
and the world goes on.
Life goes on, and these idiots who are still tic-tacking between each other, who's going to jump into bed with who? I mean, while this is all going on, them idiots are still getting paid.
It doesn't matter who's in power anyway, because the banks run this country. We're run by Goldman Sachs. We're run by the very people that we bailed out.
Yeah.
I just got a list of all these people that's connected with Panama. I have the whole list of them here today. And they're all listed with this Panama, getting all the money away in different countries, you know.
No,
but you see, people think, oh, the politicians, it doesn't matter who's in power, because the banks control the economy. They tell the banks what to do, they tell Noonan what to do, and Noonan tells the rest of them. And any of them parties that you particularly rely on, the party whip system, once Noonan says what to do, all the other people follow suit.
Exactly.
Once John Borton gives the word to say, all the Labour Party follow suit. And that's the way it works in this country, the whip system. And to have them in power is just, they're out of power for the last 6 weeks, there's nobody there. And as you say, the country is running grand, you know?
Exactly, and we don't have a representative democracy, we have a representative dictatorship. That's what I feel anyway. That's my own belief and my own opinion on that. Now, just to add a kind of, to put a positive spin on it as well, you know, time and time again, you hear on People's Internet Radio about the official offer. And a lot of people are using the official offer. Again, go to the Hub and go to National Land League, and you can see each case could be different depending on the situation. But the official offer, we know there's a lot of people that have used that, and it's working for a lot of people. I have used that personally, not in my house, but I did use it. If you remember going back, the people who have listened to our show for a long time, I used the official offer when I had my van, and I did it for 6 months, and it gave me breathing space. And basically, the bank wanted X amount, I could only afford X amount. I ignored all the phone calls and all the pestering that they did. I just carried on paying what I could afford, and, you know, that helped me out for 6 months.
It does work. But I stress with people again, but put your family first. Make sure your children have food. There was a woman a couple of weeks ago came to us and she was in tears. She was paying the bank, I think, €200 every week. She was leaving herself short, her kids, well, she was making sure her kids had food. But the woman had lost 2 stone in a matter of a few years by starving herself, you know?
Yeah.
She was feeding the children, going cold in the house, sitting there with blankets around her, no money for heating, and paying the bank every penny she had, you know?
Yeah.
And we got her in, and I says, now what you do now is you give the bank €100 a week and keep the other 100 for yourself. Get yourself turf, coal, logs, have a comfortable life, go out once a week, get your kids this, get your kids, well, pay the bank. And the bank are quite happy now. They're getting 100 a week out, and they're not bothering her now, you know? Exactly.
And I have a case as well, the individual I'm dealing with at the moment and helping out, she's actually not in the country. But she was at the stage where she was getting very heavily stressed, and she just said, I'm going to hand in the keys. And I said, well, you can do that, but it's not like America. You know, chances are they might chase you for the residual amount that's outstanding. But when I told her about the official offer and what to do, and at the moment, every month, she pays money to the bank, and that's it, and ignoring the phone calls and just doing that. Now, I have a recording from RTE Radio 2 FM, where a solicitor comes on to the radio show and she actually confirms that this system is legal and above board and can be used.
Yeah, so, it can, yeah.
You know, so if I see it, Dermot, during the week, I'll give you a copy of that recording, because I think it'd be great for, if anybody comes in to see you can actually play it for them, and they can hear this solicitor saying it to the DJ. And the DJ says, surely if a person is doing this and offering what they can afford, no judge in the land's going to turn around and say, no, I don't accept that. And he states that, you know, so I'll give you a recording, but if people want to get a copy of that recording, send us in an email. I'll be happy to send it to you on MP3, and you can have a listen to it.
We'll have the Hub phone number now tomorrow at 9:30, because as I said, we only set it up yesterday. Well, with the Land League, but the West Mid Land League, we've done great things, but it's time for me to move on now and set up a hub. Because last year, the year before, I put adverts in the local paper here looking for a hub, looking for an office for the hub, and I couldn't get one. And I kept trying and trying and trying. But eventually, yesterday, I got the use for an office, so that's it. I'm going for it now. But I'll still be with the West Midland League, because they're great people, you know.
Yeah,
but I'm going to get this hub up and running. So tomorrow we'll have the phone number. We'll have an email address by Tuesday or Wednesday, and then our computer and I'll be set up by midweek, you know.
Well, that'd be brilliant, because Mullingar is a lot closer to where we are than Dublin, and it'd be just very hard to get down. But the fact you're in Mullingar is reachable for me, and I'd be happy to pop over every now and again.
You see, we were in the hub the other day, and it was absolutely wall to wall with people looking for help, you know. And I said to Byron, Jesus Christ, I said, I can't believe this. And Byron said, Dermot, this is every day. And he's right, because every time I went up to the hub, I had to walk through all these crowds of people, and it's only a small room. And it was full again the other day, and I said, geez, you have to, and he said, Dermot, most of these people are from down your way, down Offaly, down Tullamore. I said, I know. And then I said, if we set a hub up in Mullingar, it'll save the people the train fares and the bus fares and petrol fare going up, and we could deal with them down here, you know.
Yeah, and of course, anybody listening to the radio show, anybody listening to OYM, and you want to get involved and help out and learn about the law and learn about the system, because I'm sure you'd be happy to have more volunteers, Dermot, who can help out, you know, and whether it's a case that and it's not even about, you don't have to know the law. All you have to do is even going to the court and giving out the flyers to people and go, here's a flyer, if you're stuck, ring the hub or ring the National Land League. That's what all I did. When I went down to Trim, I went up and they spoke to couples, and they were going to go in, and they thought, some couples thought it was a judge, he was going to take the house, and I said, no, it's a registrar, and it'll get adjourned, ring this number. That's all I was really doing down Trim.
Yeah, that's all you need to do, is just give out help. I mean, I probably told you this in the last show. Last year, Christmas before last, I was in the Trim again, and there was this huge man, he was about 6'4", 6'5", big huge man. And I said to him, are you in trouble? And he says, yeah. He says, the registrar told me the last time I was here, she has no option but to give me an eviction order this time, you know. He said, this was his third or fourth time down. She told him there was no other option. He had no money. I think he was a farmer or something. And he says to me, and he tears in his eyes. He was sort of welling up. He said, they're going to take me out. I'm hoping, he says, to get Christmas out of the house. So I said to him, look, what you do when you go in there is just take me advice. And when you go in there, just say to the registrar, I wish to defend my home. I said, that's all you have to say. I wish to defend my home. And I said, what she'll probably say back to you is, oh, well, then you have to put that in an affidavit.
Yeah.
And he went in, and all he said was, I wish to, he said, well, your woman shouted off first. Now, I told you so-and-so, the last time you were here, I had no option. And he says, Your Honour, can I stop you there? I wish to defend my home. And she stopped dead and she said, oh, well, then you'll have to present an affidavit to the court of what you're going to say. And he says, oh, okay. He didn't know what to say. He said, oh, he was looking around for me, and I couldn't say anything to him. And he says, yeah, okay. And she says, how long will you need? So God help the man. He says, well, as long as I don't know what an affidavit, he didn't even know what an affidavit was. He traveled with a mass. And she said, I'll give you 2 months. She says, get your affidavit, get it into the bank and get one in here, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, thanks. And he came out to me, and he was welling up, and he said to me, I got on my knees, he says, this morning, coming here to this court, hoping he'd keep me in for Christmas, he said. And I prayed to God that I'd be in my home for Christmas, he said, and God sent you to me. Yeah. That's what he said to me. And I was fucking welling up with him, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know, but look, this is the stress people are under, and that, you know, they just don't want to lose their homes, and the whole pride thing as well. And this is what I'm saying, we need to solve what's going on in this country, but the people will solve it. The government won't, the government won't solve it, because they don't want to solve it. So the only way we can solve it is get the people to help each other, and we'll solve the problem. And that's the way it is. Now, Steve, you know, we said we've no government, and the country carries on, because to be honest with you, we don't really need them. We can do it ourselves. You know, we really, really can. Do you want to add anything else, Steve?
Yeah, I just want to say, Dermot, great news that you're setting up the hub there in Mullingar. I did actually see a write-up in, I think it was the Examiner during the week. It was in one of the local shops there, and I seen you had actually got front page. I think it was a Westmeath Examiner, not 100% sure. So, you know, the word is definitely getting out. But when you set up the office there, do you what do you need? I mean, obviously you're gonna need some bits and pieces. And
well, we had Kieran Doherty from Altec Computers. He has a computer shop in the town, and he gave us the computer, the screen, and the printer. And people just give chairs because we've no money. I mean, I'm on the dole. So we work on donations. We don't ask people for any money. We do the affidavits for free. But if somebody comes into us that's working and has a few bob and you drop a tenner into the box, that's grand. It'll help towards the electric or the phone bill. And if they come in here and they're on the dole, they've no money, okay, we'll do them for free. But people, it's the generosity of people, not the government, because we've asked all the TDs. We asked the pricks, the TDs that's in Mullingar to come for our office on the opening day for the Westmead Land League. We were opening the office. Not one of them arrived. Because we were going to ask them out our 2,000 a week of expenses and wages to drop us a tenner a week out of their expenses to help us at the office. Not one of them turned up, because they don't give a shit. You see, 25% of all landlords in this country are TDs. They're all TDs. So that's why they won't vote for lower rents or anything. They want the rents high so that they can get the money.
And, I just don't know the thinking of the people who vote for these people. I really, it does my head in thinking about it. And I'll just say as well, we're coming near the end of the interview, Dermot, but I'll just say, if anybody wants to make a donation to the hub, they can send it to us and just put a note on it saying this is for the hub, and we'll be happy to pass it on to Dermot and the folks in the hub, because they're going to need having a computer, having a printer is great, but they'll need they're going to need the likes of a printer, ink and paper and all that kind of stuff, all the accessories that you need. And that's a constant expense, printer, ink and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to send a donation and send it through to OYM, just mark it down saying this is for the hub, and we'll be happy to pass it on to Dermot as well. Because Dermot, trust me, I'm understating what Dermot does. I see Dermot all the time on Facebook, and he is a warrior out there, and what he's doing is helping so many people. But we can all do it. We don't need to have a law degree. We can all get involved and just do a little bit. And even if we help one person and we educate them and then they educate somebody else, that's the way it works. So, but we all need to do it, and it's amazing the people you meet as well. You meet some great characters, you meet some great people, and you're all there for one thing, is to help each other. To be honest with you guys, it's the best feeling in the world by doing that. So, if you haven't thought about it, think about it now and get up and do it. And I'd just like to say a big thank you for Dermot again for letting us put the stickers on the back of the van, and a big thank you for David at Sunfit Ireland, who actually did the actual stickers, the posters, for nothing. Because when we offered to say, well, David, how much do we owe you? David said, don't worry about it, you're doing a great job, we're all in the same fight. Fair play to him for doing that. So, really good guy there, Dermot.
He's a great guy. He done the stickers there for free for me as well. He's very good,
Yeah, exactly. Now, maybe we can get a little fun together, and maybe even if we get the flyers or the business cards where they can be handed out to people.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be fantastic. Just to, a few quid just to get things done. As I say, I'll try and get up to you during the week, Dermot, and we'll definitely get a few photos and have a chat and have a catch up.
Yeah, give me a ring and pop into the office and you can have a look around,
Yeah, no, that'd be cool. Now, what are you doing about ongoing costs regarding the heating and the rent and any charges and stuff like that?
As I said, it'd be just donations, the same as the hub in Dublin. People come in there working and have a few bob, they drop 20 into the box or whatever, and then people just generosity online. We have a PayPal, you just drop a 10 in or a 5 or whatever, but we just keep going,
Brilliant stuff, brilliant. Well, you're doing a fantastic job, and I hope there's more offices and more hubs open up and National Land League offices open up, because, as I say, it's going to be people power. It's not going to be the government. But, Dermot, thanks a lot for coming on. Much appreciated. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all the details off you, and you can tell people where to find you.
Well, I suppose if you haven't got the website or the
I haven't got the email until tomorrow and the phone number.
Yeah.
But it's the hub Mullingar, Bishopsgate Street, Mullingar.
So Bishopsgate Street, Mullingar.
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's a sign outside or something in the window, is there?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll have the phone number. I'll be able to get that to Alan. And then Tuesday I'll probably have the email address and the whole lot, and I'll do that to Alan as well,
Excellent. So I'm sure we'll get it up on the website here if anyone needs to locate you.
We'll get the information there. Okay, Dermot, just stay with us there for a minute. This is a song. This is a special dedication for all them people that have offshore banking accounts in Panama. So here's a little musical taster.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com, UnitedWeStrike.com, and PeoplesInternetRadio.com.
Okay, and we're back. That was obviously a favourite of Valency's. That's been jumping around here playing air guitar. I didn't even know he owned an air guitar.
No, I'm pretty good at it.
You nearly took a night out there, you did.
Pretty good at it.
Yeah.
That's Van Halen, Panama. I just thought that was quite appropriate, for the Panama Papers that have been out during the week, Right, okay, there's a text message coming on. Let's see what they say.
It could be your mammy. Reading text messages out during the show. I tell you, I hope it's his ma asking him a question.
No, we just got a donation of a printer.
Donation of a printer?
For Dermot. So,
excellent,
so
absolutely fantastic.
That's brilliant, okay.
As we said before, actually, when the likes of the Hub and Land League are popping up around the place and people are trying to do their best, I think Dermot did say he got a donation of a computer and a printer, but unfortunately, and a screen. Unfortunately, as people flood in and the office grows and other people come in to help, they will need more PCs, more printers, and more screens as well. So, I mean, if anyone is out there in a position and you have one, obviously not an old dinosaur, but something that's maybe not getting used because you've upgraded and it's sitting there gathering dust. The people, the likes of the Land League and the Hub, they would make fantastic use out of that, so don't be shy.
Well, can I say this? If you do have a half-decent computer, let us know. We'll pick it up and get it off you. I'll do a rebuild on it, and then I'll send it down to the Hub, down where Dermot is. So don't worry about getting it redone. I'll do all that. Myself and Steve will do it. And then we'll get it down to the Hub, so don't worry about it. But it has to be half-decent. It has to be at least a Windows 7, because XP is a bit too old now. You want something. So a laptop or a PC is fine. If you have a screen and stuff, obviously, if it's all together, that would be fantastic. And everything helps. Trust me, everything helps. When you don't have anything, everything helps. So if you can't afford a few quid, just put a note on saying this is for the Hub, and then we'll get it down to Dermot. No problem at all there. Now, I just can't believe we've 723 people up in the courts tomorrow regarding evictions, and that's only tomorrow. It really is scandalous. But this is the big asset grab that the banks are trying to do. That's what's going on globally, because the financial system is crashing. The resources that the banks are trying to get at are all locked up. They can't get at them. So what they're trying to do is get tangible assets. And this is why the land grab is going on with all the farmers on the property. So there's a bigger picture here. If you do happen to fight the banks and get success with it, then you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. Right, okay. Now, I was on a funny note, I was going through the music today, and I said, right, okay, I want to change the kind of music at the start of the show while we're waiting for the show to start. And I had a folder, and I said Steve on it. And I said, oh, this is all the songs.
You're keeping a tab on me,
yeah. I said, this is all the songs that Steve gave me. And as you know, me and Steve are into the 80s. And Steve's a big fan of the 80s music. And Steve's always having a pop at me about my musical tastes. And I went, I'm going to have a look at this folder now and see what's going on here, right? And then I came across this song, and I have to say, it's a very, very suspect.
Oh, what are you doing?
Let me play this for a minute.
Put your left arm in, your left arm out, in, out, in.
So, Steve...
Oh, no, don't stop it. Shake it all about.
Can you tell me...
the hokey-cokey. Turn around. That's what it's all about, Alan.
That's what it's all about, the hokey-cokey, They couldn't, when he died, they couldn't shut the coffin because his left leg went in, then it went out, and then it went in again. So yeah, the hokey-cokey, and you have a go at me and my music. Right, okay.
The hokey-cokey is a classic.
We'll go out to your car, check your car out. We'll do that hokey-cokey as we're going out. Okay, on next week's show, we're going to be talking about the census. Okay, it's something that needs to be talked about. So we're going to get the main man, Vin from PIR Radio. He's going to be the first person on the show next week, because again, we have another 2 guests on. We've loads of guests booked up. So Vin's going to come on for the first part of the show, and we're going to be talking about the census and about what we're going to do. We can't tell you what to do, because that would be illegal, and the government gets upset with, if we tell you what to do. So we'll tell you what we're thinking of doing, and then you can decide what you want to do. So Vin's going to be on next week for the first half of the show. On the second half of the show, we're going to have James Plato from Media Monarch. Now, James Plato and James Corbett are two guys that we've heard of James Corbett and the Corbett Report. We've had James Corbett on a few years ago. So James is going to be his sidekick or his co-host, and we're going to get James on, and we're going to be talking with James about what's going on in the world and what's happening. So that's the plan of attack for next week. Now, I don't think there's anything. Is there anything else on the list that we need to talk about?
Your week and my week, but we haven't got time for that.
Yeah, well, basically, it was your week and my week, really. And we don't really have time for that. Just really to touch base on again, if you're going to send us an email from the contact form, okay, make sure you use a legitimate email, because if it's not, we're just going to ignore the email, okay? And that's what we've been doing. And emails that come in and we get a bounce back, we check it, and if it's like some like weird email address, chances are we know it's not going to work, so we just ignore the email. So, because we do want to reply to your emails, we are that kind of guy, that kind of guys that we do reply to the emails, maybe not straight away, but we do get around to it. And I'm just just checking everything here that we've gone through everything, and we have the Public Banking Alliance.ie, that's coming up on the 29th of April as well. And I think the forms are going to be picked up you have to fill out the census forms on the 24th.
That's correct, yes. And answer all your personal and private medical details.
Allegedly. I'm not too happy about the whole medical idea. I mean, that should be between you and the doctor, and not some cackling company that was involved with Abergrave, apparently, and there's no sovereign seal on the paperwork also, I believe. No, there's not. It's just the CSO logo, the Central Statistics Office. That's the only logo that's on it. Well, I put up on Facebook, right? I said, so if a gang forces you to do something against your will and threatens to take your money, right, that's illegal. But if a government forces you to do something against your will and threatens you with a 44k fine if you don't do it, that's legal.
Yeah, seems to be.
And people accept that. I mean, a government is just a gang of people anyway.
Look, I think you're preaching to the converted here, but yeah, there's a lot of elderly people out there, and a lot of people in general, who, when these people turn up with their big high-vis jackets and their clipboards, and they're handing out the census forms, a lot of people, they just take them, and they will fill them out. They don't ask questions, unfortunately. But, I'd like to think on this one, when they see all the medical questions, I don't believe they were on the last one. I don't remember the last one, but I don't believe they were asking for your, as you said to me tonight, your inside leg measurement.
Yeah.
I don't believe they were asking for that. So, I mean, the fact that, maybe they're just, overstepping the boundaries, and they're asking you, your medical questions on this one, and maybe on the next one it'll be your sexual orientation, and have you ever had, promiscuous sex with, many monogamous partners, or I don't know, you just don't know where they're going to go. And I mean, the 1911 census is online, as we all know, and we've often looked back at it to find your ancestors, and you kind of go, oh, that was Uncle Paddy. Yeah, I remember that he worked as a I don't know, insert chosen profession here, and that was in 1911, whatever. But I mean, do we really want to know if Uncle Paddy was having unprotected what with, who, where, and when? And it's nobody's information, nobody's business, and especially the medical stuff. I'm sorry.
We'll talk more next week. We'll talk more in depth about the census form. But look, it's just information for them to work out what taxes they can take from us.
Yeah.
The EU obviously want them to go and do the census form to say, right, we need to get a census to see how much money people have left, so we can screw them for the money and get the money off them. So it's just an exercise to find out about what taxes they can bring in. Maybe the bedroom tax, like in the UK, and maybe other taxes. So that's all it is, really. That's all I see is. Maybe other people might think that, oh, this is a good idea doing a census, because your family will need to know a lot of things. Well, your family will need to know certain things, because I've done some genealogy about regarding family, but I don't need to know about how many PCs my grandfather had in his house at that time. Stupid things like that. So.
Your grandfather had a PC? Back to the future, what?
Well, that's what's going to happen in a couple of years' time, where the kids are going to be looking up. So there you go. So that's the news. So I hope you had a good night. Great information from Anthony. Pity about Richard. He's in a location that the communications was a bit ropey. The weather wasn't too good. But as he texted me and said that he just happened to be talking about medical doctors when the line went down. Quite convenient. So you never know, who's listening in and who's tuning in. So, but great information from Anthony. We will get him on again because he has fantastic information. If you want to go through his website, I think, Steve, you read it out. It's natural-medicine.ie.
I didn't.
Did you not?
No.
Oh, okay. Right. If you want to go off to Anthony's website, it's natural-medicine.ie to find out more about Anthony. And it's worthwhile going down. If you can afford it, go down and talk to Anthony. And he's going to tell you a lot more than your GP, that's for sure. Well, listen, we're running out of time. For myself, Alan James, take it easy. Stay safe. And take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, we won't see anyone next week. Yeah, Alan is using his psychic abilities. He sees you all.
I'll see you all.
Yes, he sees you all, so be careful what you're wearing. Okay, yeah, look, it's been fantastic information. Great information there from Dermot. I wish him the absolute best with his new venture in Mullingar. And great information also from Anthony and Richard. And, just again, it may not resonate with you at the moment, but it's something to put in your file in the back of your mind. So listen, we're going to do it all again in 7 days. Stay tuned to People's Internet Radio. I think Vin is up next at 9 p.m. We'll see you again next week. The OYM stream is, we're switching it off now. So until next week, take care. Bye-bye.